All right, guys, let me know when you can hear me. Should be live right now. The stream's always a little bit behind the or the stream's always a little bit ahead of the chat, so I'm just gonna wait to get confirmation that the audio is clear and everything's good. People are saying it's good. It sounds good. All right, so just like usual, guys, let me know if the sound isn't working or something seems off. All right. How's everyone doing today? Hope everyone's doing well. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of a mix today just to try something different. That I'm going to answer questions like normal, but I'm also want to like engage with you guys more actively in the current chat. Um, and maybe have a little bit of like back and forth with some people if people want to talk about any topics. So you can also like throw topics out there. So I think I'm going to spend the first uh, let's spend the first 30 minutes just kind of going through questions and answering questions if people want to start putting questions in the chat, and I'll do about 30 minutes of questions, and then maybe we'll have a little bit of back and forth and we'll sort of see how it goes. And I'm just going to skip to the like the most updated part of chat and go from there. All right. So looks like Radazor has our first question here. He asks, do you have any new data on trading volumes from the last few weeks? My perception is there's less interest now. Um, now to FOMO into whatever price things are listed at. So that's my sense also. But I don't. But I don't have any data, like specific data, other than just watching things and getting a vibe for like what things are selling at and what people are saying. So the data, unfortunately, that like I track certain cards and certain things, but I don't track everything. It's part of why we really need something in Pokemon that tracks everything in real time. Because unfortunately, Pokemon Press, although it's great and it's this amazing free service, they tend to be like at times like a month behind or 2 months behind sometimes on certain things, or and that's a real problem in a market like this when things are moving so quickly to get that accurate, up to date info. So that's also been my perception, but it's just my perception. Yeah, and Razor says that that's his own experience. Like last month, things were flying off of eBay every time he posted. Now people are inquiring more about prices and stuff. Yeah, I'm seeing that too. People are starting not to are starting to kind of be more patient with their buying, as you pointed to there, and maybe are getting the feeling like there isn't as much of a rush, and maybe things aren't going to keep surging up. So we'll see. That actually was happening a little bit in August. I felt it a little before sort of like the September into October blow up as well. So we'll see like if other influencers or something can happen again that really shifts that or changes that. But that's something that I've been experiencing as well. But definitely, just like you, it's just sort of speculation. It's just my perception. And as you were kind of pointing to here, it's like you and I, like we may be pretty engaged and are actively selling and buying things, but it's impossible to really have a whole sense of the market, even if you are very engaged. Part of why we need uh, um, a tool, for us all to use that is in real time. It also can be very true that like the things you sell or the things that you tend to pay more attention have slowed down, but other things haven't slowed down, and that can happen too, right? It's like we each kind of have our area of maybe where we're more focused, and that doesn't mean that the whole market is experiencing that. It could also just be our area. So those are things just to kind of keep in mind and think about. So some people saying hi. Hey guys, thank you all for coming. It's nice seeing a lot of familiar people. some people talking about like what they've been picking up this week. Radazar's been buying some Game Boy games, which was always fun. Definitely nostalgic. I've been buying. I've been getting into like Middle Earth CCG a little bit. If you guys have ever heard of that, maybe I'll do a video on it at some point, showing a little bit of my collection. I've just really started getting into it the past like 3 or 4 weeks. I've known about it for a while and planned to get into it once I met some of more of my goals in like Harry Potter, which I was getting into. I really like the Middle Earth CCG as well. I think that'll probably be it for me in terms of collecting. Like those hit all of the pop culture things that I really enjoyed the most as a kid, outside of Star Wars. But I'm just not a huge fan of the Star Wars CCG. Rafi loves it though. Yeah. So talking about. All right. So, Rakan Sadat asks, what are your thoughts on the amazing rares and if they would be worth holding on as an investment in the future? So, the main issue, I guess the good thing and I said this in my Vivid Voltage video, and I felt this way when I was seeing those cards in Japanese, and I feel even more that way when I saw them in person. They're fantastic cards. I love the design of them. They're really awesome. I think it'll be interesting to see, do they make more of them in future sets, or is this going to be a sort of one-off thing? Kind of like the SL collection, the Shining Legends cards, if people know what those are from some of those like Legends, Call of Legends, and those Legends packs. Sort of like this this cool mini set that isn't necessarily going to be like remembered that much or known that broadly, but it's going to be really enjoyed and collected and loved by a certain group of people. So it'll be interesting to see how it ages over time and how it differentiates itself. I think right now it's very cool and does differentiate itself, but we're going to have to see what Pokemon comes up with in the future. The problem with investing in anything modern like that is you just don't know how it's going to age. And you don't know what else. Pokemon is always going to try to probably one-up itself and do more and more and more. And so it's never going to have the original WotC, history to it. So it really is going to be very dependent on the beauty of the art and the ability for it to sort of stand out, I think, out of the crowd. Because the other thing it really doesn't have, right, it really, really doesn't have rarity. So these are even, there are going to be a lot more of these than there are going to be like rainbow rares and things like that. And so, and I think they're also seem pretty easy to grade, at least from my pretty limited experience and talking to a few people, although that may or may not be the case. It might be a little bit early to claim that. There also may be different batches of it that come out, and different batches of Vivid Voltage may have different, type of great quality. So I think the biggest thing that it really has going against it, because I do think it has that really cool art that could make it stand out and be fairly investable, is the rarity issue. You get at least 2 per box. I see people get 4 per box. There's going to be a ton of Vivid Voltage. Probably they're going to do multiple print runs of it, probably. It's probably going to be a really big hit, and it's probably going to get a reprint in like a year or so also. Just like a lot of these other popular sets. So I think it's really the catch-22 with everything right now. It's like, if something is really, really cool, that makes it more investable. But if it's really, really cool, a lot of people are hoarding it and buying it, and so the Pokemon company is going to print more of it. And so it makes modern very sort of like tricky and unlikely to be a good, like, very long-term investment. Not impossible, but... And, we're going to see that with... I'm sure there'll be questions today about Shiny V, too. Shiny V will have some of those issues. But as far as a collector, love the Amazing Rares. They're the first cards in a while that I definitely want to get a complete set of, and probably will want a complete PSA graded set. And we'll want to... Ideally, I'll want to pull them myself because they're not that hard to pull, and then grade them myself. But we'll see how expensive the packs are. I might just buy them. They're going for like pretty fairly inexpensive prices. right now, that you can buy them like near mint. So JC asks, if you could get a reprint of any WotC set like Evolutions, which I personally don't like, what would it be? I'd go for Neo Revelation or Neo for that matter. Yeah, I've been thinking about this because I think it's pretty reasonable that it is possible they're going to do that at some point, and that maybe the 25th anniversary would be a logical time because they reprinted base set, and the 20th maybe they reprint something from Neo, right, in the second generation, and then every 5 years maybe they do that or something, I think that'd be a cool idea. I'm definitely in favor of them doing it because I love those cards. I'm a huge fan of Neo. There are definitely times where I like Neo better than base set, and I like the arts from Neo better than anything from base set, Jungle, or Fossil. Base set, Jungle, and Fossil were the packs I opened as a kid, so I have a special connection of them because of that. And the amazing simple art and the Pokemon and the art design on those cards are phenomenal, and I get a reaction to. But the Neo cards are really beautiful and also have a real simplicity to them. And I think the designs of the second generation characters are as good as the first. A lot of these Pokemon are incredible. Lugia, like the Lugia card from Neo Genesis, amazing. So you're asking like which set maybe within Neo that I would choose, because it would definitely be a Neo. I wouldn't want a reprinting of anything before Neo because we've just had enough, like with Legendary Collection and all these things. I don't think we need more. But if they did a reprint of Neo, it'd be cool if they did. For me, it would probably be Neo Genesis because I really like Neo Genesis. I was never as big of a fan of Neo Destiny. It's unpopular Pokemon opinion. I do like the Shining cards, and I own all the Shining cards except Charizard, which I never bought, stupidly. So I do really like those cards, but I'm just not as much of a fan of like the Dark and Light. I think the arts are amazing. I guess I'm just a sucker for original. And this is all just subjective, by the way. Like, everyone is entitled. Like, there are people who feel completely differently, which is totally reasonable and rational. It's just totally subjective. And I think for me, I'm such a sucker for the first appearances of Pokemon because I just love the history of, like, this is the first time it was released in English and people got to see what the new Pokemon was, and that excitement of, like, what's the new generation going to look like. And the art is so amazing. And Neo Genesis has, tons of new Pokemon. Neo Destiny has some, like definitely the Hollows, or a number of the Hollows, but also a number of the rest of the set are new. But in Neo Genesis, it has more new, and then Neo Rev has like a couple new ones, but barely any. And I'm not sure. I doubt Neo Destiny introduced any new Pokemon, although it might have introduced a baby maybe or something, some of the baby Pokemon. But I know those were definitely in Neo Genesis and the earlier sets too, so I don't think it did. So that's always why I'm a bit partial to that, and I think for history's sake, I think doing a reprint of that would be the best, although it'd be great if they included like every second gen Pokemon somehow in it and gave each one of them a card from maybe the Neo sets. That would probably be my preference. Love the question. Love getting collector questions too. I'm definitely here to help you guys with like the finances and to think through stuff, but it's also just really fun talking about our personal preferences. Jonathan B. asks, Jake, did you ever watch the Sam Harris podcast I recommended a while ago? Thoughts? How about talking about other topics related to psychology occasionally? Yeah, so honestly, like, I'm always down to talk about like philosophy and psychology within that. That's what I talk most about with like my friends, and I'm also really interested in politics. But for this channel, I think the thing with YouTube is that people come for a certain thing, and I really enjoy talking about Pokemon, and so the main focus of the content should be probably that, and I'm not really looking to start like a YouTube channel where I'm like a personality and people also come for hearing me talk about other things, although, yeah, I don't know. It's just not me. I'm not really... Honestly, the only reason I started this channel was because I just felt like there wasn't people who weren't running businesses who knew a lot about Pokemon and didn't care about like making money off the YouTube channel, giving actual honest advice and not just trying to hype up things to build their own YouTube channel. And that's why I started this. So, but as far as the podcast you recommended, I remember your post, and I've actually been thinking about it, and I was thinking about going to that. I believe, Jonathan, the post was about um, uh, recommending that I watch that because I was talking about sort of the meritocracy, I think is the way you put it in your post, because I do remember your post. And yeah, it's something that I think a lot about. I think a lot about fairness in society. And people get annoyed on this channel that I talk about my feelings sometimes because people are like, just give me like useful information to help me make money, buddy. Don't talk to me about your feelings, which is like obviously very obnoxious, but it is the reality of some people's mindset and why some people are here. But yeah, I'm big on trying to design systems in the world that really promote kind of ethical human behavior and cooperative behavior and keep some of our selfishness in check, and systems that really promote and encourage meritocracy rather than branding, like kind of superficial sort of branding and clickbait, and which manifests on social media and on YouTube as in like clickbait, like Leonhardt's latest video where he writes like rarest card in the world Pikachu Illustrator. It's not the rarest card in the world. There are a number of rarer cards in the world than the Pikachu Illustrator. He's claimed on a lot of his videos rarest. I pulled the rarest card in the world. It's a Charizard. So like it's those types of things that I understand. Like people do it. He probably does it for simplification and to get people's attention and for clicks. But that type of stuff, it does bother me. It does bother me because I believe that people with huge platforms should be rewarded for their effort and their the clarity of their message, and that they're telling their audience helpful, truthful information, and not doing things to strictly or primarily build their audience. Although I think it's a balance, and I think that I have the luxury of not needing revenue or not needing money from this, and this is their career and they're using it to feed their family. So there are all sorts of ethical issues that come into play, and I think the reality of humans, and this is the last thing I'll say on this on philosophy, but this is that the more that a human is kind of poor or struggling or in financial turmoil or anxiety, the more likely they're going to act in a very selfish, harmful way to other people. And that's including myself. So I believe that's true for every human being. And that isn't really, it's not a moral thing because we're really all that way. So the moral thing is, how do we create society, a society where we encourage people to and figure out systems that promote a sort of healthy balance between all of these different forces in society. The urge to make money, the urge to have fun and relax. And the answer is like very clearly, despite what anyone says, that we don't really know the answer, and progressives don't really know the answer, conservatives don't really know the answer to these things, and it's sort of an ongoing process, I think, of arguing and trying to figure these things out. So I think in a lot of those ways I'm probably similar to Sam Harris or other sort of kind of like moderate people and views who are mainly focused on I was a big Andrew Yang fan, to give you guys a little insight into my politics. Just people who are really focused on problem solving and it's not about ego, it's not about party, it's not about identity, it's not about being right, it's actually about humans and caring about other people. I'm a social worker. I think I'm really on the side. It's like, if you care about your fellow man, you should want to make their lives better, make your own life better, and it shouldn't just all be a selfish sort of rat race where we're all lying to each other and competing over resources and those sorts of things. So let's head back to Pokemon. You guys can let me know what you think about that later in the chat if you want to have a more philosophical conversation. Young Ninja asks, do you know how the Pop Series Hollows are acquired originally? The packs only contain non-hollow rares. So I believe they were given out at tournaments, is my recollection. but I got that information from watching, I think, one of Scott Pratt's video a very long time ago, or one of Rusty's videos. So I don't know if I've confirmed that with like talking to my friends who know a lot or reading sources that I really trust, but that's my recollection, and that they were given out, and that a lot of them were actually just like thrown out and things like that. I'm not sure exactly. It's a great question. I'm not sure exactly, like, did they all come out kind of over time, or how were they distributed the specific years? I don't have that information offhand. Guarantee you could look that up, though. That is certainly going to be known information. You could go on Bulbapedia right now and you could see exactly how they were released and read all of that. I just don't have it by memory. So I suggest you do that to get that information. I don't want to give you wrong information. May Estauna TV says, "Hello Jake, a great video on shield bidding. Question: do you like more jungle or fossil?" So as a collector, I'm not sure I like either more. I think I like cards from each more than other cards from each. So I really like Vaporeon and Jolteon and Flareon. Flareon a little bit less. And from Fossil, I really like Dragonite, Articuno, Snorlax are probably my three favorite arts, and the cards I feel have most connection to. So I wouldn't say one or the other in terms of collecting. In terms of investing, jungle, it's been a somewhat of a secret. Although I've heard other people talk about it too. But just that jungle, there seems to be less jungle and jungle first edition than there is fossil first edition. There seems to be more fossil first edition boxes around than jungle first edition, but there's still a lot of both. We're not at a point where like the majority of those cards are graded, despite what you might hear other people say, in my opinion. But that being said, it's still very hard to get 10s. And even if we opened like 30, 40 boxes, which I think will easily happen probably over the next few years, as long as YouTubers keep opening them. If YouTubers don't keep opening them, maybe it won't. We will see certainly a few more 10s, but we might only see like 3-4 10s out of that for some of the harder to grade cards, even out of like 40, 50 boxes. So James O asks, "Hey Jake, are there any general investing or collecting books that you would recommend?" The Intelligent Investor is, I think, the best book to read. It's the most solid. It's sort of like it was like the mentor of people like Warren Buffett, and people like Warren Buffett who suggest reading books like that. I think it'll just give you a really sound understanding of like the thought process behind value investing, and the way that I think about investing and trying to make money over time, and mitigating risk, and taking advantage of both greed and fear. In terms of collecting, I haven't really read any. I actually have never read a book specifically on collecting. I think my information comes mostly from talking to people who are experienced in the trade, and my dad who's been collecting a lot, and yeah. But there definitely are books on collecting, and I have read like some summaries of them. I'm trying to remember the names of some of what I thought were the good ones, but I haven't read them myself, so I think probably just doing like a Google search would be a better bet, and I can't really specifically recommend them because I haven't specifically read them myself. Mohammed Mukadi asks, "What do you think about the Crystal Charizard PSA 9? If I have it, would it be a good time to keep or sell? The prices seem crazy." Yeah, so I can't answer that specifically, unfortunately. I think that there's very good reasons to sell right now, and there also might be reasons to hold. I mean, it is a very difficult card to grade. I think that the 10 is overrated and the 9 is actually underrated, because it's not a very difficult card to grade. It's a much harder card to get than it is to grade, and so I think that people overpay sometimes for 10s, and I have a 10, so this is speaking against my own interest, but as I almost always do on this channel, or often do on this channel, But yeah, I think that in that sense, nines could have some more sticking power or make more sense to just have the card. I think having that card is a great accomplishment because there just aren't that many Crystal Charizards in the world because there just wasn't that much Skyridge compared to a lot of other things, and that card was very hard to pull from Skyridge. I think it was like, what is it, like 1 in 12 packs you get a Crystal or something like that, maybe a little bit less. Maybe like you get, I was reading something about it. Maybe it was 1 in 18, like 2 a box, or, but I know that people have only pulled 1 a box and that sort of stuff. So maybe it's even less than that. But you know, if you get that information, you can do the math. I made a video where I actually gave the accurate information earlier on my channel when I made sure that I was giving the exact pull rates and stuff with math. So that's what I would say about the 9 versus the 10. I think that the Crystal Charizard has moved up a lot in value. So I bought mine for $2,700, the PSA 10, about 8 months ago now, or 7-8 months ago, when things started coming up a little bit and there started being heat. And we'll see what this one goes for right now in the PWCC auction. We'll also have to see if it's being shill bid based on my last video, right? We'll see if it actually if it doesn't get relisted in these sorts of things. But I think last time I looked, that car was at 23,000. So if it gets to 27, that's a 10 times increase in not that long, and not only a 10 times increase, but a 10 times increase on a significant amount of money. $27,000 is a lot of money to pay. So that's a huge gain that you would have made, or that I would have made. And so, you know, if I was investing purely, I would sell for sure. A 10 times gain in that amount of time it doesn't make it's I would fully, you know, want to take out some of my profits in that. I do think that it's one of those cards, like, it's such an amazing art. It's Charizard, it's WotC, and it's Skyridge. Like, I don't think there's that much of a risk. I don't think there's nearly as much Skyridge left in the world as there is Jungle and Fossil First Edition, for example. And so I think when you think about that card as like, it's less of a risk that it's going to get flooded, particularly the 9. The 9, like, any 9 from Jungle or from Team Rocket, like the Team Rocket 9, like the Dark Charizard, there's going to be so many more 9s. There aren't going to be nearly as many Crystal Charizard 9s. And so that's the type of stuff that does help things retain in value, and what I think has made these cards undervalued for a long time. And then I think the art is spectacular, unique. It's the only Crystal Charizard in the hobby. There's a lot of reasons to hold on to that card, even though it's gone up a lot. There are a lot of things right now that I would prioritize selling over something like that. But I think that if the money could really make it could be life-changing for you, you know, and you sell it, and this is an issue I think a lot of people have, is that there's no perfect time to sell anything. You're never gonna, the odds of you selling at the highest point is next to nothing. You know, these markets are going to fluctuate. And so don't feel bad if you sell it and then it goes up a little bit. You still may have made the right decision, as long as you were aware that that was a possibility, that was going to happen. So, you know, it's having a system. If you're just trying to make money, you have to sell at some point. And so you have to decide what that time is, and then you have to decide what you're going to do with that money. Like, where else are you going to put that money and invest in that money? And do you think that investment is going to outpace the Crystal Charizard as an investment? Like, that's the mindset to be thinking in. The Wonder Boy Nath is here. Thank you for being here. You guys should check out, I know he has a channel, is a nice guy, and has started a nice Facebook page as well. VVV. So I'm going to do about 5 or 6 more questions, and then I'm going to skip to the start of the chat, and we'll see if that provides like useful or less useful content if we go back and forth a little bit on stuff. And if people want to start like posting maybe like topics or things. So thoughts on special delivery Pikachu and also Kanazaka Pikachu. Yeah, so I've been hearing, so the Kanazaka Pikachu, super popular. I like, a lot of people in like the high end experience collector world and these Discord chats and channels that I'm in and things like that are talking about it. They're having some of their orders canceled. A lot of them made multiple orders, thinking that some might get canceled because the price is probably going to go up so much. So it is happening to a lot of people. I think it's a really cool looking card. I don't know too much about it, honestly. I will probably do more research on it at some point, and maybe I can make a video eventually on like modern Pikachu promos, which obviously has been a huge thing. They keep making a lot of these like interesting, like amazing art Pikachus, and I think figuring out how much of those exist and how difficult they are to grade, where those pop reports are going to settle, and trying to figure out which ones are the coolest art or are tied to sort of the coolest event will be the secret to which ones do the best in the long run. But yeah, the little bit I know about them, they definitely seem cool. Obviously, they're the really hot thing right now. And generally, buying into stuff that's like really hot and everyone wants, not always the best thing to do. So Brandon St. Randy gives a super chat. Thank you. I really appreciate that, man. Appreciate that a lot. He says, thanks for all the advice and entertainment. You're welcome, man. Thanks for spending your time with me here. All of you guys are taking time out of your days to spend this with me. So I hope that it's valuable and helps you guys. Either gives you guys good information you can use to kind of better your collecting habits, better your collecting lives, or just makes you feel better, about whatever's going on with you. It's crazy that like this exists to me, and that people stream to like other live people and all over the world. It's just it's an amazing, really interesting technology. But I do take it seriously, and I know that like there are 119 people watching Court of this. Like that's 119 like real people, and I really do appreciate even though I've never met any of you, I do appreciate each one of your times, and I hope that each one of you can get some value from this. Faith asks, what do you think about new Japanese set? So I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. In general, just like new Japanese sets, or maybe you're talking about Shiny V. I'm not 100% sure. So maybe below you can say exactly which set you're talking about, and I can try to answer it. What do you feel about evolutions in present day? So I've talked a lot about evolutions on this channel. The one thing I will add is that, and this is something that I've said in previous streams, but I actually was going to make a whole video detailing all of the prices around it, but I just like didn't feel like it. Because I just don't really feel like dealing with like the pro evolutions people and just like the negative pushback. And because so many people own the boxes in their house, and just they have so much, honestly, they just have so much selfishness around like wanting the prices to be up that they don't want to engage in the arguments a lot of the time. So that's frustrating. But my feeling on the boxes is that the boxes are better than the cards. The cards are the worst. The PSA cards are the worst. They're the most overpriced. But whether you're buying them near mint and ungraded, it's bad. But it's way worse even if you're buying them in like PSA 10. And PSA 9's probably even worse in some cases, because at least the grading's really, really hard in that set. But I don't agree with the logic behind I care zero about having a 10 of any of those cards versus a 9, because there are hundreds of thousands, of each of those in the world. And it's just not exciting to me. Like I just don't get a hit from owning a 10. And I don't mean to insult. Like I think people can take that personally and be like, well, I have a 10 and I paid a lot for it and that makes me feel bad. Have that sort of reaction. And it's like, and perhaps I should try to be more gentle, but I think my anger and frustration is not at people like that. It's at the other influencers hyping it up and saying that they were right and that it's been a great buy and these sorts of things. It's like, it's a hype-driven phenomenon that I don't feel there's so much of that product. There's more product of that than any other set that's ever been printed in Pokemon. It's completely modern, and there's going to be hundreds of thousands of those cards circulating. And they're all being sent to PS. So many cards at PSA are evolutions right now. And those packs are still, being found in tons of boxes, in the Kanto box, obviously, but also in every other Pokemon product because they have tons of it sitting on their shelves. Please, guys, those cards are always going to be extremely available. The only reason I would ever buy that PSA 10 Charizard is if you are a completionist Charizard person who really wants that card out of a collector interest. And that I get. And if there are people out there who feel that way, I have not met a single person who feels that way, who wants that card in a 10 as a just pure collector. And wouldn't just be happy with it as a 9, but like I have like 15 9s probably, and I have like 8 or 9, 10 Japanese 10s. So again, I'm not saying this to hurt you guys. I own more of that probably than all the people who are angry at me. So really, I'm hurting my own financial health more. And like I've thought about selling them. I feel bad about selling them at these prices, and I know that like that seems weird, and like maybe we should all be. That's a whole nother ethical debate about like should you sell things to like new people who you think when you think they're making a mistake, or should you just like respect their agency to make those purchases. I was having that debate actually with my family the other day about like how they felt ethically about that. Do they feel like that's taking advantage of someone because you have more knowledge or more experience, these sorts of things. But yeah, so this pattern has happened in a lot of other hobbies. They did like reprints. They did alternative arts of tons of comic books and things, and those all became worthless. There are reprints, and there's so many reprints that are worthless in Yu-Gi-Oh! But for some reason, the influencers decided to say that Evolutions was like a better reprint, and that Pokemon is a special hobby and a unique hobby, and it happened to correspond with Logan Paul, and a lot of sellers took full advantage of it, and a lot of new people jumped on, and then you had Rudy make a video saying positive evolution. Like, so many things just came together for it. All that being said, the Evolutions booster box is a much better buy than the PSA cards, because the Evolutions box expected value, if you compare it to the PSA cards, is... and this was something I talked about like a month or so ago, probably now in a video, is like a lot of those cards were going for like $100, $200 in PSA 10, and you're going to pull like multiple ones from the pack. And now you may not get them in 10s, but even if you get them in 9s, they're selling for like $30, $40. I mean, you're easily making your money back on that. And so I think that what happened was there weren't enough cards. No one graded any of it because no one cared about it. No one ever bought any Evolutions or cared about Evolutions. So there was none graded, guys. 2 years ago, nobody was buying PSA 10, PSA 9 Evolutions, or almost no one. So there was no interest, okay? So none of it was graded. Then so people just have hordes of it. Hordes and hordes of it, sitting in pristine condition. Then what happened is all of a sudden it got popular, but PSA is like 8 to 9 months behind. So in 8 to 9 months, there's going to be a massive, massive amount of these PSA cards that's going to hit the market, which is then going to have a negative impact on the booster box. But the worst right now are those PSA cards. The second worst are the booster box. Honestly, if you care about money, and anything can happen, and I could be wrong about this, but my honest opinion is I would send everything to CGC. I would try and flip, so you can get it back as quickly as possible, and I would try and flip into this as quickly as possible. And I think we're going to see those booster boxes retrace quite a bit, but they're not going to retrace as much as the cards. The cards are going to retrace more. And we'll have to see. I mean, people might be stubborn and just refuse to sell their boxes anymore. What we might see is reduced listings, or reduced sales. It'll start with reduced sales, and then then the prices will go down. So how I like to not make predictions, guys. That's one that like even I feel it just all of the indicators say that that's going to happen to me. I wouldn't be interested at those booster boxes for half the price they're going for now. And I know that that's crazy, right? But that's really how I feel. But everyone, at the end of the day, like, and I say this too, I have limited knowledge of the market, limited experience doing this like everyone else. And I would let my arguments, I know that I get passionate about it, and the reason I get angry and passionate is because I feel like people know this and they're intentionally manipulating it so that they can make profit off of people who don't know any better, and so I get really angry at it. But don't let my emotions dissuade you. Try to think about the arguments and then try to think about those things for yourself and make those opinions yourself, okay? All right. Sure, I'll get some dislikes for that comment. That's always a surefire 3 or 4 dislikes when I talk negatively about anything, because there are people who just watch these streams just to hope that I'll boost their cards, and not talk negatively about their cards, and it sucks that that's the state of the hobby in a lot of ways for certain people. It's part of why hype channels don't actually give you guys good information, because the pokey positivity, the everything will only go up and people will only have a good time and only make money thing, it doesn't alienate people. All right. Liam Edmondson asks, Trimmy Hedges says, I was actually going to ask what other CCG games you thought had a solid future, not just in value, but overall attention. Yeah, it's a great question. So I don't really know. I would say that I'm definitely, I'm not connected into like the Reddits, into the world of all these other CCGs to really know what's going on there. Rafi's going to make a video on Star Wars, and he knows Star Wars like pretty well. He's been pretty hardcore into it for a while. There are obviously like these new CCGs, like Rudy from Alpha Investments, big fan. He makes some like fun videos on new CCGs, like I don't even remember the name of it right now, the Blood one that I'm sure you guys know I'm talking about, most of you, that's gotten like really hot, and like the alpha, like the starter from that has gone up a lot. But yeah, as far as like older CCGs, I think Middle Earth is the most underrated for sure. Now that being said, it is quite expensive and it's quite hard to find. It has a lot of really hardcore people who follow it and are into it, but the art and the gameplay is very, very similar to Magic, and very, very similar to quality of Magic, and the beauty of the cards is very similar, and the interest in the art, and also the gameplay is excellent. It's a really good game, and the release and the amount of it might also be pretty similar. So I think what's interesting, so I have picked up some of that product myself because I think it's extremely underrated. I think it's historic. To me, I didn't buy it necessarily to make money. I certainly think it will go up over time, to be completely honest with you. But to me, it's owning a piece of history. It's like owning an alpha starter deck, owning some of that, like, the limited edition first printings of things. And there are a lot of different sets. There are sets that are really difficult to find. The last set is the hardest. It's called Balrog. You can buy it for like 2 starter decks or 3 starter decks or something online right now for like $4,000, that sort of thing. Really, really hard to find that. The rest of it's like far more affordable, but it doesn't come up a lot. And if that gets more attention, people get more interested. That'll be something. I like Harry Potter. I don't see Harry Potter. I think the boxes are really cool. The gameplay and the art, it connects to me because I love Harry Potter, but I don't think it's necessarily as beautiful, intricate, or interesting art, or as complex or interesting gameplay as something like Middle Earth. But I do think Harry Potter, when you think about like the fans and the amount of money Harry Potter brings in versus the amount of money and interest in Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter does have more, but Lord of the Rings also is a huge franchise, and is very popular. And it's always possible that they make more Lord of the Rings movies, that these things, when there are big Lord of the Rings events, and if it becomes popular again, and that happens to correspond to a time when there's interest in trading cards, you will see people gravitate to that. And I really think there's a limited amount of product. It's a very popular thing in Europe. And it's in a lot of different languages, and there are a lot of people who still play it and still love it there. And I'm sure there are people who watch this channel who know a lot about Middle Earth, and I've been doing my best to learn the basic rarity of all the different sets. Against the Shadows, also really difficult to find. And I can do I can do 2 videos on that. But there's to, I guess, do a quick overview, and then I think we're gonna go to maybe one more question, and then I'll jump to the end of the chat here. There are, so the sets are, let's see if I can remember them all. The Wizards is the original set, and you can get that in limited or unlimited edition. The limited edition has a black border, and the unlimited is blue border. The limited is quite a bit rarer, but the price doesn't always necessarily reflect that. They can be somewhat similar. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't say it's quite a bit rare. I have had quite a bit harder finding it, and it definitely goes for more, but it's definitely the first. I'm not sure how much rarer it is, although I think it's rarer. Then we've got the Dragons, which is not very difficult to find and is still very affordable booster box. You can get that booster box for like under $100 all day on eBay still, for the most part. Some people try to get 120, 130, but within that range. The next booster box is the next kind of era is the Lidless Eye, which is definitely harder to find and more expensive. And then you have like Against the Shadows, which is within that, and that's very, very expensive. Those booster boxes I still haven't been able to find one. They go for over $1,000 from what I saw. And then Balrog, which goes for, massive amounts, obviously, if you could find a lot of that. And then the White Hand, which is the cheapest of all of them, even a little bit cheaper than Dragon, or similar price to the Dragons, the White Hand, and I imagine the White Hand and the Dragons were just the ones that they created the most of, and that's why, but I don't know that for a fact. So that's a quick overview of Middle Earth. But again, as you guys can see, I'm a collector at heart. I love cards. I collected sports cards too, and as a kid, I was a big sports card collector, big Pokemon in sports. And I love these. Getting into these other CCGs has been incredibly fun. And while Pokemon has been, I think, just like too inflated and too hot, I've gone into these other places where I feel like I'm getting more value for my money. I'm getting more enjoyment for my money, and I feel more confident that the prices I'm paying for these things are going to hold up over time. I do not think these things are going to explode in value, although anything is possible in this world, as we've seen in Pokemon. I think if you're really looking to make money, you generally doing it within Pokemon long term, or things that are going to be more established, is probably your better bet. Just making pure money. Certainly, if you're going to flip and be very active, you want to go to the hottest, biggest markets. You don't want to go to these like little markets as much that require a lot of like understanding, and frankly have a lot more experienced people who really know what they're doing and know what the value. It's a lot more of an established older market than something like Pokemon, where you have a lot of people who are willing to pay, a lot for something, a lot more than it's been going for. So Pokemon is the better place for sure to make money, particularly in the short term, and probably also in the long term. But in terms of value, in terms of what you're getting, and in also terms of probably less likely to retrace on some of these items due to the rarity and the more established price points in some of these hobbyists, there is opportunity there for both in really real enjoyment if you're a collector, hardcore collector like me, and also like retaining value and possibly growing in value over time. And I think very likely for some of that stuff it'll grow. Okay, I'm gonna do one more question. I apologize because I know there are probably lots and lots of more questions here. And then I'm gonna jump to the front, and we'll have a conversation or something. We'll see how it goes. All right. Do you think? So Liam Edmondson asked, do you think Neo Destiny is underrated given the price of the modern Shining Pokemon? So I talked about my feelings about Neo Destiny earlier a little bit. Yeah, I mean, all the Neos, particularly though, in my opinion, Neo Genesis, because again, I think that original Pokemon is underrated, and I think will become a lot more of a thing at some point. I think that the predominant experts in the hobby have always talked up base set a lot more, and I think that the rarity of Neo and the fact that the Neo arts and the Neo artworks are amazing, and and I think the second generation is an absolutely beloved generation, with many Pokemon that people absolutely fanatically love. I think that Neo should not be as cheap as it is compared to the other sets. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to say that it's should, I don't know what's going to happen in the market. There might be more of a correction in certain things, and Neo might not move that much, or Neo might go up, and I don't know. But what I can tell you, I think pretty confidently, is that the things that are probably at risk for the biggest correction are not Neo, not things like Neo right now. Now, some of the Shinings, that may not be true, because some of the Shinings have really gone up in value, and the Shinings compared to the Holos are not, and I did a video on this earlier in my channel where I went into into the data, but the Shinings are not necessarily that hard to pull compared to each individual Holo. So these are things to think about, and that's true for the crystal cards versus the regular Holos too, and why a set like Expedition is so underrated. Why the Expedition Charizard is unbelievably underrated in this hobby. Shockingly, honestly, shockingly underrated. All it would take is like Leonhardt saying, lowest pop Charizard, lowest pop WotC Charizard, which it is, guys. Lowest pop main set WotC Charizard, and that card would be gone, would go up a huge amount. I mean, and so the influencer hype and the fact that people are so new and immature in the market that they listen to just sort of the loudest, biggest following voices and creates this irrationality in the market and if you go to my value video about how to assess Pokemon value, or the value of any collectible, that's the stuff that over time is going to matter. We are an extremely young, unestablished market compared to sports cards, compared to other sorts of things where they've really figured out. I think in the value tends to be somewhat more rational, although of course there's irrationality, in every market. And every market there's subjectivity, okay? So there's also subjective arguments of I don't like that art, right? I don't like the Expedition art. That isn't irrational. That's just a subjective opinion. What is irrational is saying that it's not very rare, that it's not hard to grade, that there are a lot of them. These sorts of things. That's not true. That's wrong. That's very wrong. There's a lot less of that in PSA 10 than anything else. There's a fourth of it, PSA 10s, there's 30-ish of it, versus 120 PSA 10 first edition Charizard, and yet that card's going for, whatever it is, 250, 260, 300,000, that could be a completely shill-bitted card. We'll see if it actually sells at that price. So we have to be careful thinking that that's definitely the price for that. But again, is that if the Expedition card's going for $6,000 or something, 6,000, and it's it's that much rarer. There's so much less of it in the world. There's less Expedition Charizards in general in the world. Does that really make sense? Is it that much better of a card, or are people just listening to other people and listening to other people tell them where the value should be? And this is something that people will argue that the market is rational. And whenever you hear someone make that argument, I strongly disagree. Markets are driven by social media, particularly in this era, but always, and driven by news. And mania is driven by news and influencers. And so the best thing you can do is understand what's actually the actual pop reports, the actual information behind these cards, because in the long term, the prices will come to you. I truly believe that. But it can take a really long time, and it can take a lot of education. And things have price inertia, guys. Things have price memory and price inertia. So when something goes for so much, it can be very hard for it to come back. But there are a lot of cards in this hobby right now that are ridiculous prices when you look at the actual value assessments of what makes a card valuable or what should make a card valuable. And I think it's really funny when people disagree with that. They don't actually argue. They don't actually make a good argument to why I'm wrong with that or why I'm being irrational. They don't say, no, actually, Jake, you missed on this. They just say, well, that's what the market's paying, so that's what it's worth. And it's no, that's not what investing is, guys. Investing is imagining what it's going to be worth down the line. It's trying to pay something. It's trying to find value where other people don't. So if I think this thing, people are not valuing it correctly, I value it this way, and I think eventually people are going to value it correctly. That is value investing. That's skilled investing. The other way to do it is just going with the herd. And hoping that more people come into the hobby rather than actually using your skill to differentiate value. Okay? So I hope that's clear for people and helpful. Oh, while I was giving that long answer, I think I received a super chat somewhere. Now I don't see it. Oh yeah, here we go. From Muhammad Mukadi, just saying thank you. You're welcome, man. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so I'm going to go to the end of the chat here. Let's see what people are talking about while I'm rambling on. I actually can interact with you guys, which is something I want to do. All right, so let's see what people are saying. So Radazur is asking, so people are talking about my Expedition comments. Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. So Expedition has some of the lowest pops in the hobby. Expedition, particularly for WotC. Now, there are some even lower pops for cards that people no one wants, but there are also lower pops for things like some of your like level X's, like there were some that were sitting at like 2 or 3 that were very, very difficult to grade. So for example, like the Dugtrio, these are just off the top of my head, the Fearow, like these are all pops. These are like under 10 in the world in PSA 10. Very difficult to get. Now it's a Dugtrio versus a Charizard, right? But even your highest pop ones, the last time I looked, 140, 150 in the world, which is still less than anything else, from sorry, excuse me, not less than anything else, but less than a lot of cards that are going for a lot more money. The thing about e-readers is that there are people who still have them and are still grading them, but there aren't that many left, and I know a couple of the people who have them, and they are. Now, the negative thing about e-readers, or a number of the e-readers, is they are quite easy to grade, and they have 50%. They're somewhat easy to grade, and so if there's more product out there, they're going to be easier to open up and actually get 10s from. But it's unlikely. There just isn't that much product. Like, how often do you guys freaking see an e-reader box up compared to a jungle and a fossil box for anyone who's looking at eBay? Like 20-1 jungle fossil boxes. There's a Skyridge box I think I saw come up today even. And so there's still a lot of Skyridge boxes and Expedition boxes, and we don't know how many of any of these things there are. But this is the type of stuff that, e-readers were not very popular when they came out. And there were a lot of people had already dropped out of the hobby, so they didn't make as many. But the people who end up staying in the hobby are going to get bored of base set, jungle, and fossil. And it doesn't mean they're not going to continue to like it and enjoy it, but they're going to want to collect other things. They're going to move to the Gold Stars, to the Expedition cards, to the E-Series. To the Neos. And so that is, if I were you, and to like some Japanese stuff, to the play promos, to the, to the fan club cards, to the Misaki cards, to the Cardass, to the Bandai, these sorts of things. And so often the people making the nostalgia argument have not been in the hobby that long. Because the people who've been in the hobby long enough to realize, yes, nostalgia connects us to those cards, but I love all Pokemon, and I really just love amazing, interesting art, and I love new things. Like, I love seeing new stuff, right? So I got a super chat here. So Jonathan B, so going back to meritocracy. Oh, thanks for the $10. Very generous of you. The problem with using meritocracy as an ideal to strive for are that what society values is out of any individual's control, and that the interests a person develops are also out of their control. The problems with using meritocracy. So the problems with using meritocracy as an ideal to strive for are that what society values is out of an individual's control, and that the interests a person develops are also out of their control. So, so it sounds like there's a longer debate there on individual free will versus like group and ideas about like group selection versus individual selection, or are things selected at groups, or can things be selected individually? And I wrote a paper, my thesis in undergrad on actually some of these topics, and there's definitely a lot to say there. I think Maybe we can talk in Instagram, Jonathan. If you ever want to have just a conversation with me on this, I do love this sort of stuff and be happy to talk about it. I think I'm not going to here just because I'm not sure how many people want to hear like a in-depth philosophy thing. And if a lot of people want to, maybe we'll do like a philosophy day where we talk about philosophy of life. I would certainly enjoy that. But I also want to respect that probably a lot of people are coming for mostly the Pokemon stuff. So I am going to jump back to that, but I really appreciate the thought, and I'd be happy to talk to you more about it. I love talking about that stuff, and I'm happy that you like it too. I think it's a really good thing that people think about this stuff myself and consider this stuff, and I think that it does matter collectively when a lot of people consider ethical ideas, religious ideas, and try and figure out what is sort of best, for themselves, but also for other people and for the collective. So I'm glad you're thinking about it. And Tommy Lee donated $1. Thank you very much, sir. Omnipoke says Skarmory is a pop 6 in 10. I thought it was a 7, Joe. Oh my gosh, I'm slipping, Joe. Honestly, man, like I've been just kind of like not as on. I used to know I used to be able to spout any sold data, any pop report. Because I was so into it. And now the prices are all over the places and the pop reports are a bit all over the place. I'm not as up on my numbers. I think when things settle, and this is, I guess, a promise to you guys too, I will try to go back to that, and I think then I can be even more of use for you guys, because when you guys ask me something, I can tell you the exact numbers on what things are selling for, and be a little bit of that guide for you guys. Although and I'm happy to share that. I do think that ideally we would just have a place, and Pokemon Price is good, but we would have a place that would keep it all like real time and that we could all trust, and then it wouldn't be so difficult to find. So Omnipoke says, but Jake Expedition isn't a flex. Am I missing something here? Oh, so Omnipoke saying, yes, people are saying, like the bubble. Omnipoke asks, Joe asks, what would you say to those people who are saying the bubble has popped, and even those saying now's a good time to buy before they go up again? I just think it's like proof of everything I've been talking about. About just like how, to be honest, like hype driven and immature large parts of the market are, and how people there's a lot of arguing and not a lot of just like common sense stuff. And to be honest with you guys, like my channel, if you looked in the sports cards world, my channel would be considered like a really excellent, moderate, reasonable channel. In this world, because like every channel said everything was the best time to buy everything right now, which I like still is so hard to get my mind wrapped around. Or they're just like whining and complaining and not actually basing their arguments on. They were just saying things are too expensive for me to buy and that makes me feel bad. And I get that. Like I feel that too, but they weren't actually giving arguments or reasons and citing data from other sorts of things. They were kind of viewed as like whiners. Somehow we got labeled, and I shouldn't have said this myself, that I'm bearish, but like really like we've just been talking common sense here, Rafi and I. And if you had looked at other hobbies, that's like what everyone else was saying in those hobbies, or like the biggest channels would often say in those hobbies. And so I think that it's a maturity issue in Pokemon. And I think this is an example of the maturity issue in Pokemon, is that, like, first of all, we have the bubble has popped way too early. First of all, a lot of those high sales could have been shill bid. And so really, because like things jumped another huge amount in the last like month. Like Charizards that were going for like $5,000-$6,000, and like Team Rocket and Jim were going like 12, 13, 14, in PWCC. Now I think PWCC is being crazy shill bidding. And for some reason, PWCC has gotten rid of the ability to check to see who buys it. And I know that they did that last month, and I didn't mention it but like it's really irritating that we can't even track shill bidders now on there. Again, strange that they're doing that. And again, I just think that's like the comments that it would be too much to say, oh, they're definitely like in collusion or scamming. But I think the appropriate response to that is like, wonder why. It's strange that they did that, and that's correlating with like a lot more shill bidding and a lot more interest. And wouldn't it be better to have the transparency to be able to see who's bidding on things, and so that we can check to make sure it's not one person bidding everything up like across the board, or bidding on their own items or these sorts of things. It's a bit questionable. So, and that's part of why I made that shill bidding video. Yeah. So Joe. So again, saying the bubble is popped way too early. Some cards may be coming down in value, like in unlimited and other areas. Way too early to say, so we've had some sort of bubble pop. I agree with Radazor completely and his first comment. And that to me is the mindset that I think is appropriate. It's like, like there seems to be a bit of a momentum shift happening. We're having a certain loud faction kind of like panic. We're having another faction say, these are the best things ever. We have increased shill bidding, which is a sign that people, and defensive shill bidding, which is a sign that people are afraid of the prices going down, so they're artificially defensively bidding on certain items that they own to keep those prices up, because they don't want to acknowledge that they overpaid, or that they're going to have to take a short-term loss on something. All of that is a sign that we could be seeing retraces, but other things could happen that could push it up. As I said, as I've been saying in my videos, I think it's more likely that and I agree with Radazor, that things are going to start with a slowing, and then we're going to start to see people undercut. And my question is, how many people were buying at all these new prices who actually wanted to keep the cards, or is all of that product just going to flood back on the market, and are they going to undercut themselves back down to when people are willing to buy again? When I'm basically willing to buy again, and a lot of the other people like me are willing to buy again. That's the question, but it's far too early to claim that. So people are jumping too much, on both sides. As far as like right now is a good time to buy again before they go up, it's possible. It's possible that this is not going to be a big dip. It's going to be a short-term lull or a small dip in certain cards, and now might be a decent time because it's going to go up again. I think very likely, though, we could see a retrace that we won't recover for another 4 years, maybe. And it might take a really long time to recover for. And if things have really been shill bidded and manipulated and people got really manic and crazy, we could see 80% decreases in cards, which is, what people saw in like crypto and stuff like that. Humongous decreases in price because it got so maniaed and bubbled. I do not know how much things have been shilled up and manipulated. I've seen red flags, but at the same time, you have to be calm. You have to be patient. If you were willing to buy at those prices, you shouldn't be panicking now. Again, if you're panicking, then you're doing exactly what I was saying that you were doing, which was buying because of the prices and because of the perceived that it was always going to go up, not because you were valuing that item at that and you felt confident that over time people would value it. So my best advice to people is to make a plan, figure out what type of investor, what type of collector you are, set goals for yourself, and then try and follow through with them. And I'm going to give you guys as much info as I can, and if I really see things shift, I will let you know. If I think that there's, first of all, don't panic. Pokemon's not going anywhere. Like, the love for Pokemon is real. The love for these cards is real. The connection to these cards is real. And there are tons of extremely wealthy people in this hobby who will always be in this hobby, always be engaged. And this is not a Beanie Babies. This is not a flash in the pan. But I do think with Modern, and I do think with plenty of Vintage too, particularly your things that do not have extremely low pops or things that just went up 10, 20 times in value, you have to be worried about 80%, 60% retraces, which still leaves you with a humongous margin of profit if you had bought in at the lower elements, right? So that's what I would say. But again, now could be a decent time to buy because it could double again. That's the type of but whenever a market is like that, it's a very manic. That's a very manic response. So if the market goes up, a huge amount more, it's very manic and unhealthy. If the market goes down a huge amount in a short time, that's very manic and unhealthy. Either one. We want We want stability, we want trust, we want liquidity of our items. We don't want this illiquid, crazy environment where everyone's panicking, one way or the other. And trust me, there's been a lot of panic the other way. People panicking, I'm never going to be able to get the card I want, I need, there aren't enough in the world. People panicking that way too, driving the prices up. Cool. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to go back down to the... So I'm at the bottom of the chat here, just reading what people are saying. TCG Authority, yeah, so I'm actually I just read your comment at the bottom here. Does he answer any questions from the comments? So what I did in the beginning is I was answering questions. Now for those of you who just joined the stream, now I'm at the bottom of the comment section, and I'm just kind of interacting with you guys. So if you want me to answer a specific question or a topic, go ahead and talk to me right now. Yeah, so Hisoka, for any of you guys who don't know, you should check him out. He's been in the hobby longer than I have and has a lot of experience in flipping and making money in the hobby, and is also definitely a collector. And correct me if any of this is wrong, Hisoka, if I'm getting any of this wrong, but he did a lot of like buying raw sets and then grading those raw sets and flipping them for profit and then building out. I think I remember, Hisoka, you saying something in a forum about your ultimate goal was to collect maybe like Nintendo EX era into some of like some of the full arts into like some of the middle eras. I'm not sure, but I believe you were someone who you had sold your collection at one point. I think you've been in it for a really long time. You had sold your collection, but you've sort of been able to rebuild it and make a lot of money in the last few months during this hype by basically doing what we talk about on this channel all the time, which is having the experience, having the knowledge, understanding like where the heat is, buying cards at good value in auctions, and buying large sets and these sorts of things, which is what we've talked about in all of our earlier videos on how to make money. And then flipping those grading those cards yourself, trying to find those raw, pretty solid grades cards, and then flipping them, WotC first edition holos and things like that, and commons and uncommons. I think you were buying like jungle and fossil sets and that sort of stuff. And then flipping them for huge profits. And in this market, there are people who have made $200,000-$300,000, like not that it's not been that hard, in the last 6 months. But again, who's going to be the loser? Because there are going to be people who are holding the bag. Let's see. So some people asking me about. One person asked me about Collectibles Guru. Yeah. I think that the negative part about Collectibles Guru is there are a lot of people trying to make money in the hobby. And the ironic thing is that a lot of people who are hating on Collectibles Guru are in the same business as Collectibles Guru, and maybe they're not quite as like lying and as sleazy, but they're still trying to make money on Pokemon cards, and they still do things that I think are like not the best sometimes. So I think that the annoying thing about Collectibles Guru has been like a lot of the YouTubers who like just got into Pokemon crapping on this guy, making huge amounts of money on it, and like appearing morally superior when they didn't care at all about Pokemon a few months ago, and have just started jumping on the train, selling packs on their channel, and making money off of the exact same thing. So I think certainly Collectibles Guru, like, ridiculous, right? That whole dumb money thing. I think dumb money was ridiculous, embarrassing. Like, that whole thing was just like a sleaze fest, right? I think we all felt that way simultaneously, so I'm certainly not, and I think that there are clearly, as bad as, or as unethical or as business oriented and only kind of caring about their own profit as some people are who have been in the Pokemon hobby for a long time. Some of these newer people, and someone like Collectibles Guru, who came from the crypto world and really, based on certain comments I've seen him make here and there, seems to be really here pretty much 100% to make money, which, whatever, but you just have to be careful of that. And he's clearly there's a lot of questions about that box, right? Like, what the heck happened there? How, like, either he's lying and he opened the box and tried to, like, scam them, which is ridiculous because they were going to open the box anyway. That just seems irrational. Or he's telling the truth. And maybe he's just like, he just seemed really guilty and seemed dishonest, but he's not. And he was telling the truth. And he, literally, the guy, the gun safe guy, was just full of it. I don't know. Either they're the dumbest con men ever in the world, or they didn't do anything scammy and they just look like scammers and talk like scammers and are kind of dicks. Like, they're kind of jerks, obviously, and care, like, mostly about money and hype, and I don't know. But they might not have, like, done anything necessarily shady with that box. All right. Sorry, there's so many questions, guys. I'm just trying to, let's see what people are saying. And feel free to respond to what I'm saying, and we'll kind of go back and forth here. So Jambi asks, what's the time frame criteria for a set to be vintage? So there is no criteria right now. I think that in Japanese, there's one way of talking about it, which is like old back and new back Japanese, and actually the back of the card shifted. Definitely people, I think everyone considers Wizards of the Coast vintage, and I think a decent amount of people would consider the original Nintendo EX era vintage, and I think some people would consider your, Diamond and Pearl era, some of those middle eras, maybe even Black and White, like those eras as vintage or vintage light or sort of middle. I put them into three different categories. So I put them into Nintendo EX earlier for English, vintage Nintendo EX earlier, then after Nintendo EX to XY, and then XY to present. And I think part of that is because of the amount of popularity and the amount of people in the hobby. I think it makes sense to think about it that way. So Zazu Joe donated $2. Thank you very much. And asks, thoughts on vending series Topps and Bandai Carddass? Yeah, so I'm happy to share some more thoughts there on that. I tend to get asked on that, in most streams. They're great. Some of my favorite cards. The thing to look out for, and if you want to go back and watch, for anyone, and watch my video where I talked, oh no, I'm forgetting his name, wonderful guy, where I talked to the guy who was a crypto investor and came in, and it was Brian. In the video with Brian, we go into depth on talking about it, because I had like the largest or one of the largest positions in the world, and now he's going to have an even larger position of those PSA 10 cards, and he really loves them. Yeah, my favorite arts tend to be the Bandai 1997. Top Zone kind of has that original feel and was the oldest set potentially, or the first ever printed Pokemon cards potentially. Vending series has amazing hand-drawn art. Can be somewhat difficult to grade. You have to peel them off those sheets. I have graded a little bit of vending series myself. I've never graded them off the sheets. I know a lot of people have. I've thought about doing that, but I just never did. Vending series have gone up a decent amount in price. They're still good value compared to, like, I'd much rather buy vending series than I would buy modern. And you can get a lot of modern cards for the same price as you could get like a really, really amazing vintage, extremely old vending series card, where they're just going to be a lot less of them in good condition. So that would be what I would say about vending series. I think any of those, if you can get them for reasonable prices, which is pretty, I'm going to leave it vague, unintentionally, are good long-term historic cards and buys. They're all going to be more niche than anything WotC probably, but again, you're going to have people move to them over time probably. And the one thing we do have to look out for is that the pop reports may not be fully fleshed out, because the prices on them were always lower. And so a lot of people, particularly people in Japan, who might have a lot of that product, and I know one seller who has quite a bit of this stuff laying around and has been grading it pretty intensely, and making a huge amount of money on it, more of that's going to be coming out. So all of the pop reports are going to grow with these. We're going to have to see how much they're going to grow. So hopefully that's helpful. And jump down to the bottom again. Michael Eden saying it's a shame that Logan Paul seemed to be genuinely interested in the hobby, and Collectibles Guru ruined it for him. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I doubt that. I mean, like Logan Paul has so much fame, so much money, so many things going on. To speculate on why he left the hobby, who knows, right? We have no idea. And why he decided to make it public, we don't know. The fact that he's like completely done collecting is like interesting, that he could like be that hardcore into it genuinely and then like completely cold turkey move on. That's interesting from just like a personality standpoint. Someone who gets so intensely into something, spends so much money, and then just completely moves on from it. That says something in and of itself. But I guess he does have a potential pattern of that, and it could just be that's who he is. He is a human being, even if a lot of it's fake and BS and a brand behind it. He is a human being who has things going on for him. But yeah, I mean, my thing, guys, is like, why did he pick Collectibles Guru? And I'll never know the answer to that, right? And I don't know, and no one has been able to give me that insight. I've asked like my most in the know friends, who might be like, know behind the scenes, and they don't really know why that happened, other than that he saw him on Instagram randomly and Collectibles Guru sold him some cards and he just like became part of it. And that might be the whole story. But again, they picked the biggest influencers. They didn't pick people who have been in the hobby for a long time and have been selling forever and are the biggest experts in the hobby. And it would have been a really good opportunity for Logan to pick someone who really knows their stuff. Now again, how would he have found them? I don't know. And none of those people have big YouTube channels. So Ernesto Alvarez, thank you for this super chat. He says, "Hey Jake, what cards would you never part with or sell? Maybe you can tell us a story of how you found a card that is now very special to you. Thanks." What would I never part with or sell? Well, my childhood cards I would never part with or sell. I mean, never say never. Like, obviously, like if someone was like, "Jake, I just want your childhood cards for some reason because I want to rip your childhood away from you, and I'll pay you $1 million for them or something." I'd certainly be tempted, because with that $1 million, I could provide like more generational wealth for my kids and these sorts of things that I think about, and protection for them. And it would be extremely selfish to not sell in that type of situation. But in any sort of realistic situation, yeah, my childhood cards. It'd be very hard for me to sell my Crystal Charizard. It'd be very hard for me to sell my Gym Challenge First Edition PSA 10 Charizard, which is the first PSA card I bought. Be hard for me to sell my Tropical Wind. Any of my stamped Worlds cards are pretty off limits. I would never sell any of those. The prices would have to be like 20 times what they're going for right now. Again, I think that they're part of the most underrated, undervalued cards in the hobby. I hope to own every single one day, or like as many as possible. Those cards have pop reports and rarity. Some of them they're rarer than the Pikachu Illustrator, some of those cards. And yet, the Pikachu Illustrator is going for so much, so it's interesting, right? Now, Pikachu Illustrator has original art. It has more historic. They should not necessarily, and by any sort of value assessment, be more than the Pikachu Illustrator, but the difference is crazy of these sorts of things is the real point. The original Pikachu trophy should be worth more than the Illustrator, though. Hot take right there. And there's no reason why it's not, other than really it was misinformation. Westerners originally thought that there were only like 4 or 5 of those in existence. And over time, they found out that there were actually, now there are 39 is what they say that there are in the world. Although Picono, who, for those of you guys who don't know, is this, high-end Japanese seller who no one knows exactly who he is, and he seems to have tons of extra copies of trophy cards, and he probably has more of those, so maybe more are going to surface over time of all of those cards. But yeah, those Pikachu trophy cards are the first ever tournament. They're 6 of them, right, in the world, these types of things, 7. So Sean Price asked, shouldn't the Mewtwo trophy card be more than the Pikachu? No, so the Pikachu was first, and I actually don't like the Mewtwo art. The Pikachu arts are much better. Yeah, Joe, me too. Any high end, I can tell you that all the high end collectors in the know that I know much prefer the Pikachu trophies than the and those are the cards that we all want, and the snap and things like the snap cards, and not as much the Pikachu illustrator. That's more of like the card that people who are newer in the hobby look up to, and obviously it gets put out there by the biggest names and pushed. Yeah, Joe says let them hype the illustrator. I know, Joe. I'm like, I should just have never made this channel. I should have just gone into a hole, did my thing, and I'd be far better off than outing all of the secrets of like what we talk about behind closed doors. But yeah, as far as that Mewtwo, I don't really like the art on it that much. I prefer, just because it's like, I don't know, it has like a weird pattern on it. It just doesn't do it for me. That being said, that card is obviously insanely rare too, and is up there with what should be the most valuable. Yeah. Joe says the illustrator's the dumb money best card ever. Yeah. That being said, at least the illustrator is actually extremely old, was actually won in a really cool art competition that was an original art competition, and is genuinely extremely rare. It's not like so ridiculous that it's the most valuable. It's just ridiculous that like the misinformation that's out there. Okay, Sean L. Thanks for the super chat, man. Asked, PSA 8 Unlimited Charizard, good hold or pop too high? So, I don't know. I mean, the Unlimited cards have gone down, right, guys? Like, I guess, unless some of those were shielded, we don't really know. I think it's a little bit too early to tell exactly how much they've gone down. The way that I would think about those Unlimited Charizard cards is you can always get another one. They should never be that expensive. They should never be completely unaffordable at all grades. Like, if base set Unlimited Charizard is completely unaffordable at all grades, it would mean that, like, we're talking about, like, hundreds of thousands of extremely wealthy people in the hobby. And I just don't see that ever happening. There's nothing in any other hobby that's that common that is worth that much. So what I would say about it is, like, selling it's great if you want to lock in profit, and it is a card you don't have to fear of probably getting back or getting back at a lower grade. I personally don't care if I have a PSA 8, a PSA 7, a PSA 6. It doesn't really matter to me that much on a card like that. As you as a collector might feel differently. And I think it also depends on the PSA 7. Like, there are PSA 7s that look really nice. There are PSA 7s that don't look as nice. I really like a clean front, and some PSA 7s have a really clean front. So it also depends on that. A good way to think about those is they're kind of like blue chippy things. Like, they're probably going to move with the hobby. It's always going to be an extremely popular, wanted card. I do think, and said a lot on this channel, that Unlimited saw the most hyped up movement from the Logan Paul stuff. And that's just because, first of all, everyone was talking about base set, and there were 30 or 40 big YouTubers with millions of followers just talking about base set, and it's what everyone collected. So of course that's where everyone goes first. And that's why Evolutions went up so much. It's the exact same thing. People wanted their childhood cards, and there weren't enough at the time to fulfill that need. But again, as I said before, they're going to be a lot more graded now. A lot more are going to come out of the woodwork and be graded, and that's going to supply the demand over time. Also, a lot of people who wanted it are going to move on and are not going to stay in the hobby, and it's going to be a fad for a lot of people. So I think all of that points to the fact that, going to this question earlier, like, I think the Crystal Charizard is going to be and will always be a much harder card to get, than an Unlimited Charizard. So, and it depends on your collector goals, Sean. So hopefully that helps. I also don't think you have to worry that no one's ever going to want it and it's going to have no value. So it'll tend to move with the hobby. Really, that card should be more stable. There should be the most sales of that card, and it should be the most stable over time type of thing. Um, so Yamwax says the Illustrator that sold in September for 86,000. That was a good value. Uh, yeah, I mean at the time, uh, it was still a pretty good deal. But again, at that time, for that amount of money, you could have bought a lot of things, right? You could have gotten a lot of trophies for $86,000. So I wouldn't have definitely not put $86,000 into that card. At that time, there were a few of those original trophy Pikachu's that came up that you could probably have got for 60,000 ish. Now the Illustrator has moved up probably a lot more in value than this Pikachu original trophy cards, but no one really knows. I've heard people throw out numbers of like 200-ish thousand maybe for those Pikachu trophies now, but again, I haven't heard any confirmed sales at those prices. I know some high-end people have traded trophies because now we're talking about so much money that not a lot of people even have that cash. Outside of like these like rich celebrities and influencers coming in. So, but certainly, yeah. I mean, like if I had bought that for 86,000, I could sell it. If I had bought that for 86,000, I'd be selling. I tell you, I'd be selling it right now in a heartbeat for whatever it be going for right now, 500,000 or I don't know. I heard them throwing ridiculous numbers around, like 2 million, way over $1 million and stuff, based on nothing. Again, guys, like they might be right, but unless they're saying like I heard someone's willing to pay that, all that does on these big channels is create price memory and inflates these cards. And it's not responsible. It's like not responsible. Wonder Boy says, give me your Tropic win, Jake. I promise it will make you feel great. Maybe one day. I've thought about, if I end up being kind of stable financially, very separately from my Pokemon one day, I think it would give me great joy to give my cards away to sell it to charity or give it to charity or give it to people who I've known for a really long time in the Pokemon community and stuff like that. I think that would be awesome. Because I want my cards to go to people who are really going to appreciate them and take good care of them. And I know you're someone, just from watching your channel that would really treasure and enjoy the card. So some people were talking about fake cards, one and only. What do you think about the fake PSA cards? Not sure exactly what you're referring to. I apologize. Have people been faking like PSA cases or stuff like that? I haven't seen that. People are talking about, proxies, yeah. Hate proxies. They're so annoying. Like, if you're going to make a proxy, you don't make one that looks exactly like it. That's like very fraudulent, and it's going to really probably hurt someone down the line because someone's going to buy that as real. At least like paint on, like the ones where people paint on the cards and make them look like really cool. Those I think are awesome. I love that there are artists who are passionate about Pokemon and want to paint their own Pokemon cards. I don't know how the Pokemon company is going to feel about that, but I don't really care how the Pokemon company feels about that. For me, it's about your average person getting scammed. I think the Pokemon card company will probably be okay. TCG asks, Authority asks, he's asking the chat and me, what's our favorite modern artwork for the last 3 years? Yeah, cool question. Let's see what people are saying. See if anyone answered. Well, for me, and yeah, if people want to answer, because I'd love to hear what you guys like too. God, my favorite modern. I have some like favorite modern sets. I really like Cosmic Eclipse. In terms of just like picking one card, it's kind of tough. Some of these amazing rares are interestingly, I really like them. Nothing's coming to mind as like a singular, definite favorite. Yeah, I don't know. What's yours? Do you have TCG Authority? Do you have one specifically in mind? Do other people have like favorites? Let's see what people are saying. Yeah, are you guys like mostly individual Pokemon collectors? Do you like collecting sets? What do you guys like to collect? Yeah, Wabdi agreeing. Cosmic Eclipse is so fun. Yeah, so fun. Cosmic Eclipse and Vivid Voltage, my favorite two sets in recent memory. And I enjoyed opening Hidden Fates too, but not as much as these. These are just like, they're laid back, they're chill, they're fun. You get so many hits in each box, so many cool arts, so many cool things to add to the binder, and you don't have to worry so much about the expense. It's like, it's really nice. It's really fun. DB says Shining Mew. Yeah. Are you talking about the one from Shining Legends? It's definitely a great card. And then the Shining the not Shining, the like Mewtwo Secret Rare is pretty cool. The test tube Mewtwo is pretty cool from that. Swami likes the stained glass Articuno. Yeah, definitely excellent design. I remember seeing that before it came out and being like, yeah, that's a card that is gonna do well. Rackensat says Palkia Dialga and Arceus alternative art card. That card, yeah, that's a cool card. I've seen some of those. Damsco Cards asks, please, Jake, what do you think of vintage Japanese Neo binders? I don't really know too much about them. I just know that they're like really mass produced, and there are a lot of them, so I'd be careful. I think that they've gone up in value quite a bit. I'm not a huge, like, I don't really dabble in them. I've never bought them, never sold them, was never that interested in those like card file things. So sorry, I can't give kind of more detail on it. Pokemon Hollow saying I collect EX era, E Series era, Level X, EX cards, exclusive Japanese cards, Shadowless, sealed product. I love all those things on the list. Yeah, me too. I'm very similar. I'm very I kind of shift. I tend to get like really into certain things and then kind of get tire's not even the right word. I get almost like I'm still interested in them, but then I find something else that really excites me, and I guess my attention moves there, and then I do both of those things. So that tends to be how I've always collected, is I see something I really like, I do a ton of research on it, and then I try and get as much of it as I possibly can. And then I kind of move on to the next thing from there. TCG Authority says, I love the Scream promos and Japanese Pokemon Center exclusives. Yeah, me too. Yeah, there are so many Japanese Pokemon Center exclusives that have really cool art. I do own a fair number of those. I always try to get them ungraded and then grade them myself, because usually that's a good way to save on money for those from people. And you can actually get like you can get a number of them if you're quick enough, and then sell. You can flip some of them for profit or to pay for the one that you keep. That sort of thing. Omnipoke says the Alolan muck bursting out of the sewer is hilarious. Gold Star, Beast from Me, Brandon Say Randy, nice. Simon Pyre says WotC sets in general. One and Only says I collect modern, awesome. It's nice to see there are so many collectors here. Chris Turner asked me about the Japanese victory medals. I don't really know. I don't know how, like, the print runs of those seem pretty big. I think that there are rarer trophies that should be going for more. And again, I know I've teased this video, but Mark and I, Enlightened Bulbasaur, who is more knowledgeable than me on a lot of this stuff, we're going to get together and do a trophy video as soon as his life gets a little bit calmer, where we're going to go over a bunch of different trophies, and maybe we'll even do a few different parts where we go over some modern trophies too, and try and break down and give you guys our more full opinions, because we think that video is sorely missing from YouTube. It's just a hard video to do because there is incomplete information, there is speculation, and we just want to make sure we're not giving you guys the wrong information. So it's something we have to prepare for. So I will save. Maybe we'll bring some of that stuff up, but I think that the cool thing about those is that they are actual. They have Pikachu on it, and they have like a trophy on it. You know, they have, or a medal, right? But they have like the first place, second place vibe on it. Do you have any insight? TCG Authority asked, do you have any insight or thoughts on PokePark promos? I picked some of them up when I got them. Those were going for nothing. So there were a lot of cards around then. Like there were like the 7-11 promos, the PokePark promo. There are a lot of promos that were just always going for nothing, and I would pick them up and grade them, and I think that they're really cool art. They're very vintage feeling, a lot of them. In terms of reading more about them, and I've done this all in the past. Again, I would go to Bulbapedia and read what it has to say, because generally it has really good release dates and release information about all these sorts of things. I think if you like Japanese Pokemon cards, and that's fun for you to collect, there is a lot of Japanese promos from that era that people do not know about, that the masses have no idea at all about, and that if you can find them, you can still get them for not too ridiculous of a price. Like they're also like the movie commemoration cards, extremely underrated. They're not as old. Um, Gorgeous cards. Uh, let's see. Anton Hoppin says the Christopher Rush WotC Mewtwo promo is awesome. Agree with you. So that's the one that so I that's the one card I made sure to get in the legendary collection. It has that art, and it has that art in like the reverse holo and the regular form, and I have PSA 10 versions of each of those because I agree with you. I love that card. I love the Christopher Rush designed a Pokemon card, and I'm a big fan of Christopher Rush from Magic, of course. And so I think so that really attracted me to that, and I think that's an underknown thing that actually really makes that card very, very undervalued. The legendary reverse Mewtwo holo in particular. It's also the only card from that whole set that isn't in one of the other sets. It's the only sort of original one. Now it is that promo card, right? But I think that's a slept on niche sort of thing that, again, over time, these things are discovered by like more people who are really interested in like all the details. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Anton. Really, really great art. And it's just cool that Christopher Rush made a Pokemon card. All right, let's see what else we got here. A lot of great comments here. Altera asked, hey, did you see the 16K misprint Skyrage Gengar on eBay? It's pretty cool. Looks like Gengar's holding a fireball. I did not. I have not seen that. I'll take a look. I'll take a look at it. And yeah, you know what? Now that you've said, I think I have seen something like that before. I think there are lots of undiscovered error cards in East area. So error cards are my biggest gap in knowledge. So I've been really trying to read. There are a number of people who are far more experienced than me, and I try and like talk to them and get information from them, and I try to read their stuff on error cards, because there are so many error cards in Pokemon, and also error cards in like all sorts of like vintage Japanese. There's just so much to know. And although I don't really like error cards. It never responded to me. I like to know things about the market and what other people are interested in. So that's a whole area that of things to research and things to understand, and it's a potential whole untapped area. So signatures are a somewhat untapped area within Pokemon, and these errors are somewhat untapped niche market, and also original art is not like people love the cards and not necessarily know, or as many people are in the market for like some of the original concept art and things that aren't necessarily on cards. So I think that if the artists get more popular over time and get more well known, or someone passes away, it becomes more public, the signature goes up, the original art from that artist, the concept art, could go way up in value connected to the cards. Like there's a lot of stuff there that if you're really a savvy investor and you really do your research and understand, I think you can probably take advantage of some of that stuff over time and get a leg up on the majority of what people are doing and thinking. I'm not interested in making that money. For me, I'm more, I sort of made the money that I've needed to at this point, and at least for right now, and I'm just kind of trying to just like enjoy my collection and enjoy this channel. All right, what else we got here? Jonathan B says, personally, I don't like buying trophy cards because they feel unearned and the art is meh. So what I would challenge you on, Jonathan, is like, how many of the trophy cards do you know? Because I do not think the art is meh on many trophy cards, and I'm not sure about the earned argument, as you're not earning any cards that you get, right? Or is earned opening from a pack, but if you just buy a card online, did you earn that card, or did someone else earn it by opening a pack? I don't know. It's just like, I feel like people have a thing, and this may not be you, Jonathan, but I feel like people have a thing against trophy cards that's irrational. Like, because they're so expensive, and because maybe they don't own any, they like they don't want to like them or something, because it's like, ugh, now I have to collect those and they're going to be forever out of my reach and all these sorts of things, instead of just being like, they're unbelievably cool. And everyone who's been in the hobby a long time, it's what they want the most, pretty much. Like, pretty much everyone. Because you get bored of the same old Wizards of the Coast arts. You get bored of the same old, newer and newer shiny things, and that history and that rarity is unparalleled from some of those original trophy cards. But I include trophy cards like Art Academy cards. Like, the art cards are also trophy cards to me. Now, I was having a bit of an argument with someone last night. It was really a friendly discussion about, do collectors prefer the art trophy cards because they don't want the ones from the tournament because people aren't as connected to the tournaments? And that kind of goes to what you're saying a little bit here, Jonathan, that you feel like the tournament makes it weird for you. It's like outside the realm of collectors. And my argument was like not necessarily an argument, but just like, I don't feel that way at all. And to me, at the end of the day, like, I think it's awesome that people play the game, and it's cool that they get these trophy cards, and it's awesome to own a piece of their of history, of these accomplishments and of the history of the franchise. And to me, like, I equally love the Art Academy ones. Like, I have tons of Art Academy cards, and Pikachu Illustrated, these sorts of things. Love to own those cards, but I also love the player trophy cards too, and tournament trophy cards too. But to be fair, I do, from that perspective, understand where you'd be coming from there, Jonathan. And I do think there are other people who feel the same way. As far as like not having cool art, though, I'm not. I don't know. Like, I mean, again, it's all subjective. So. And you may know all of the trophy cards and not like any of them, and I'm totally like, I totally respect that, to each their own, 100%. So Wonderboy saying, hey, how are the trophy cards unearned? Yeah, I think he was meaning what I said with, just that he didn't win them versus like, but again, you didn't win the Art Academy card either, so, I don't know. Lugia and Neo Genesis, both first edition and non-edition, are increasing in price. Do you think Lugia is second behind Charizard in terms of market? Zavi Smith asks. I don't know. Like, should it be second most? It's so tough. I mean, as I said before, I think Neo's underrated. There's so much less Neo. There's so much less of that card than there is of that Charizard card. Or if we want to like compare it to the Blastoise, which is really at the heart of your question, right? It's like, should the Blastoise first edition PSA 10 or the Lugia PSA 10 or maybe the Typhlosion PSA 10, which is even harder to grade, should that be the second most expensive, right? There are these types of arguments. I don't know. I think they all are historic, wonderful cards. I think the Lugia is actually priced really high. I think there are other cards from that set that are actually more underpriced than the Lugia. Even though the Lugia should be well overpriced. I also think the Charizard's well overpriced from those other cards. And I think that's in part because of Logan really hyping that specifically. But again, estimating that, like, it's a fluid market and like things are gonna change. Like, that's my opinion from having been in the hobby for a while. That's how I feel about where the value should be. I always felt that first edition Bis was being pushed by people and was being like, people were attempting to make it the cornerstone of the hobby. Whereas I always felt like, it is the first set, but there are other sets that have other things going for it that first edition base doesn't. Whereas in Magic, Alpha is the first set, and also it has all the most powerful cards, the Power 9 in it, right? And so it has all the biggest hitters in it. It's the first set, and it has by far the least amount of it than any other set, by far. And so it was so obviously the most valuable. In Pokemon, it becomes more confusing how to assess value. All right, I'm gonna go to the end here. So Pokemon Hall says, is it overpriced if there's a demand? So when we're saying like overpriced, it's like what do we think it's gonna do in the future? At the end of the day, you can always say, of course, that like things are like whatever someone's willing to pay for it is the going price, and as soon as that is sold, then the next going price is what the next person's willing to pay for it. But that isn't, I think, the doesn't get you anywhere when you're trying to make good decisions. Um, let's see. Pokemon Hall is saying I called the reprint of UB for ages. Yeah, yeah. I mean, anyone who says that anything modern can't be reprinted is trying to sell you something or is naive. So TCG Authority asks, what's your long-term plans for the channel and what was your reason for starting it? Yeah, so my reason for starting it was because I felt like people were getting really bad. I felt like there were a lot of I saw a number of new people coming on the scene who didn't have accurate information, who were telling people misleading things, and who I felt like weren't really giving people like stable like economic financial perspectives. And so I wanted to step up and do something about it, because like I can tell you that like there are a ton of those people behind the scenes in Pokemon, like there are Discord chats and there are things that I'm on with like extremely savvy collectors who know way more than like Leonhardt or any of these people, like way right, like way more, or at least can give you, or at least like say way more and give you way more accurate information. But they just don't want to start a YouTube channel because either they like are busy, they don't care about this, they have no interest or ability or skill in talking to a camera, or or all those sorts of things. So I wanted to combat some of the misinformation and just kind of like share my opinions. The other big thing was it was during a time when I had a lot of free time, because we were all kind of inside during that period, and so I just had more free time. So I thought I would start that. Joe says more than Leonhardt. No way. No, he knows more than everyone. And the truth is like Leonhardt is so like at least he's like been working here and doing it and does know quite a bit. It drives me crazy that he misleads his audience on so many things. If he just didn't do that, I would have like so much respect for him, because I do really respect like that he's brought a lot of people in, and that people have fun, like, and that it's fun to open packs, and that he sources the packs and he does all the work, and I would never want a YouTube channel like that. Like, so to have that work and that pressure to create content, like, it sounds terrible, like awful, right, guys? Like, I don't know, maybe some of you guys would want that for yourself, and that would be a dream. It's never a job that I would want to do, and yet it does help the Pokemon community. So yeah, so whatever. But yeah, but that's the reason I started the channel, and just to like meet more people, hang out, talk about Pokemon. I was doing it so much. Rafi and I talked about Pokemon and all this stuff so much anyway. And I honestly, like, I studied the market so much for 3 years and knew all of the numbers, and I was like, I just have this information in my head. I'm not doing anything with it. I should probably do something with it. And I had ideas of maybe monetizing it someday, like doing, I know like Scott Pratt makes so much money, like on Patreon and selling his stuff, his time for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and I'd never do something like that, or I'm not really that interested in that necessarily, but like I had ideas at one point. I'm not feeling that way anymore. Right now, I really just want to do this for fun, and I want the content to just be like free and relaxing and enjoyable, and I don't want to feel pressure to do it when I don't want to do it, that type of thing. But that's why I started it. And in terms of the goal, I mean, the real reason it'd be nice to get bigger is that then we would have more attention and influence, and be able to bring, like, if you like the type of stuff that I try and bring into the community, and the more analytical, specific, all free type stuff, that if we got bigger, that would be brought into the community, more people would agree to come on the channel and meet with me. People who maybe would only come on if they got something out of it. Obviously, like, everyone who's come on this channel, I haven't given them any money. Like, they've come because they care about Pokemon. They love talking about Pokemon, and they wanted to spend some time. Like, so so it's and there are other people who might be more inclined only to do it if it got them something, if they gained from it. So that would be one reason for us to get bigger here. Two, I mean, the negative of getting bigger would be, like, would it get out of hand, and would, like, there be more trolls, and would, like, it be nastier and, like, a lot less fun, and would we not be able to, like, have more chill conversations with the same group of people each week? And so part of me is also like, maybe getting to, like, 10,000 subscribers and not more than that would be, like, a really good goal for this channel, and would be, like, a really comfortable point of where we are. We have, like, a nice, pretty sized community, but we're not, like, we have no pressure to, I don't feel pressure to, like, create more than I want to, or be more than or say more than I think I can, that type of thing. So, I don't know. Interesting stuff to think about, though. Jonathan B says this channel should have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that's true, because I really appreciate that, but I think that I think a good ceiling for this channel, depending on how popular Pokemon continues to get. I've lost a bunch of subscribers and really slowed down in my growth because I haven't been telling people what cards to buy. And those are the videos that get a lot of hits. And if you see the new channels that are growing a lot, it's the channels that tell you, here are the 5 things to buy. Here are, like, the 5 best modern sets. And, like, obviously, like, I could easily make those videos. I could say what everyone else is saying and just repeat it, and then have a thumbnail where I'm, like, looking at something. And I did a couple of those thumbnails earlier on, and they were a bigger hit. But I just don't want to do it that way. But I think the reality is that the price of that is that the algorithm's never going to pick it up. Not a lot of people are going to come on the channel because of that. And that's something it's just sort of a reality of YouTube and what sells. And each content creator has to make a decision on what their personal goals are and what they want to do and how they want to grow. Honestly, a channel like Joe from Omnipoke, unbelievable channel, should be, much bigger, getting much more accolades, much more attention. He's, like, the nicest guy. He's really super smart, cares dearly about Pokemon. And I mean, I'm not sure where you're at, Joe, right now. You're probably I'm sure you've seen a swell during this time. Hopefully you've seen a pretty big swell, as a lot of people have. But again, it's like people want lights and high energy, and they come to think of, like, a certain thing as the correct thing. And those are the channels that sell, and the thumbnails too. Thumbnails are a big thing. I always think, just to give you guys full transparency, I'm always thinking, like, if I made a video, guys, saying, here's what over $1 million in cards looks like, and I put, like, all my cards in one room and I went through them, that video, and I did a really catchy thumbnail, and I tried to spread it around as much as possible, like, that could really help blow up the channel, right? But then it would attract all of the wrong people to the channel. It would attract all the people who are just interested in making money. And then we would get a lot more trolls here, and we get a lot more. So in some ways, when my subscriber count goes down, like, it went down a little bit after that shill bidding video, I'm learning to feel like, okay, good, we lost some people who are not interested in hearing about, like, what's negatively impacting the market and what's hurting people. And it's sort of, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, what type of community do we want that it's actually enjoyable for all of us? Pokemillion saying, I'm even much more cynical on the current state of the market. So I love your moderation and calmness. I appreciate that. Kids don't have the awareness of what gambling is. Yeah. Thumbnails have gotten a little absurd. In the Moment says, I like watching Danny Phantom. He's not a bad channel. Yeah, me too. He seems like, I don't know him, but he gives, like, concrete, helpful advice. I think he's a bit bullish, and he's gone. I've seen him talk a little bit, and would love to have a debate on with him on some of this stuff. But like I've seen him talk a little bit about like I think he's a little bit too positive on Modern and doesn't really give you the analysis of like what's going to happen to it, and talks more about like what it's like to run to flip, to do short term sort of flipping, but like that's what he does, right, full time. And he gives like actual concrete useful information from someone who's actually doing it. So I think that if you want to flip in particular, it's a great channel, and people are really interested, and it's definitely striking a chord. Does that channel, I think, grew really fast, and so I think that that's a sign that a lot of people are flipping right now, and flipping Modern specifically, because I think that's the majority of what he covers. Someone correct me if that's wrong. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, it's like how people. I have the luxury too of this not being my job, so I can say things that like piss people off, and it sucks to get like the negative comments, and like I can get my feelings hurt and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's like if this just goes away or becomes really small, like I don't have to depend on this at all, and I have other investments and a career that I'm not planning on ever leaving for this or something like that. So I don't feel that pressure to or focus to make this a business, and I think other channels do, and so I think it limits what they can say and what they're doing. And I think that that's okay, right? And I think that within those constraints, you see people running a really good business and providing a service for people, and I think that should be commended. I think like Z and G Emporium, I think PokeRev, I think Danny, like these guys, they're running businesses, and they're definitely interested in growth and making money, and they make, I think, that pretty clear, and that's what they're doing. But they do it in a very they do it in a way that I think, for the most part, is providing value to the people who are engaged in their businesses and giving them the time and money. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, Royalty Gaming Pokemon's here. Hey, man. You guys should check out... So, Royalty Gaming Pokemon and I are hopefully going to do an interview at some point that we've talked about once we can figure out the schedule. So he's a dude... You guys know we've talked a little bit about the Cardconomist. So Royalty Gaming Pokemon does basically the same thing as the Cardconomist. Runs one of these like streams where he charges for packs. But from what I've seen, and Royalty Gaming Pokemon has agreed to kind of come on and actually give us like the real information about why he charges what he charges, what he's thinking about, give us that insight that I think will be helpful to understand it from a business perspective of what these streamers are thinking about and what they're doing. But he's a dude who knows a lot about Pokemon, is honest with his viewers, gives them, every time I've been watching, has been giving them honest feedback about like what their cards are actually going to grade, isn't pushing people to buy, isn't saying cards are going to go up forever and that you should invest all of your money and that these are better investments than stocks, like all the things you're hearing in other places, and is charging less for packs than a lot of people. So if you're interested in pack streaming channels and buying packs, I think he's a up and coming interesting option, and also we'll be having him on the channel to talk about it. If that's something you're interested in, you should. And what I really appreciate is that he's willing to come on and actually talk about the ins and outs, because as you guys know, this channel is all about the viewers and giving you guys, like, trying to connect you to the best resources for yourself. And so if you want a streaming channel, I'm hoping that this will be a good streaming channel for you. All right. Yeah, people talking about like thumbnails. Yeah, thumbnails are ridiculous. Oh, Celtics and Tatum just agreed to a 5-year extension. Nice. That's great news. I was really upset about Hayward and us not getting anything for him though, so we'll see how that all goes. Maybe we'll still do some sort of sign and trade with Charlotte for those who are interested in basketball. Thank you for that Woj bomb. Invest in Pokemon also says invest in Beanie Babies. Everyone's been talking about it. Yeah, put all of your money into Beanie Babies, but not the ones that actually have retained their value, like the 1% that are actually still collectible in value. Just buy the ones that are like the warehouses filled with Beanie Babies. They made way too many of them, and they weren't that like organically collectible. Ian Toomey asks, any idea what the best place will be to pre-order Shiny V-Set in English? I don't know offhand. I tend to sort of look around. I have places that I order my English stuff from. The Japanese stuff, I often just pre-order from eBay and some of the eBay sellers. I have a couple, like I have a couple Japanese friends that sometimes have a bunch, but honestly, they charge a lot, and we are friends, and they do give me discounts occasionally, but they don't on that type of product. So, because it just sells out so quick. So I tend to not, like, I probably won't be buying any of it because it's going to be really hyped and probably really expensive and hard to find unless I can, find it at pretty decent value. Jonathan B says 2 hours flew by. Yeah, so we are at the 2 hour point. We can give it a couple more minutes. Highly Best says, laugh out loud, man. People really do go deep into them channels too. Painful to watch. Yeah, I think you're talking about like the Card Economist and these sorts of things. Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that what happened is that, because I watched the Card Economist from when he first started, and was one of the reasons I got into this, and he has gotten better in terms of his knowledge in Pokemon. In the beginning, he like didn't even know the sets or like what Pokemon basically were, and basically what happened is he got really into it, which is fine, right? Like, he was new to it. But what happened was like he started talking about like how amazing and hyping everything up and pushing everything up, and then frankly, like, he happened to be right. He happened to be, like, the cards did go up a lot. And I think it's, frankly, just to be really frank with all you guys, it's absolute dumb luck. Because, like, Pokemon cards were certainly overdue to go up, but, like, the way he was talking about it and the time frame, like, he didn't have insider knowledge that, like, Logan Paul... Like, if he had insider knowledge that Logan Paul was going to come into the hobby and these sorts of things, like, fair enough. If he knew that COVID was going to happen and shut down PSA and give people stimulus money, fair enough. But in reality, he just got, like, very lucky, like, extremely lucky with the timing, and it made his predictions seem better and more real and more based on reality and not just, like, random, whatever. Non-arguments, and I think that made, and basically all of the people who follow him are brand new. There's no one who's been in the hobby a long time who was falling for that, just to be honest, because like you could watch him for a few minutes and you'd know like he doesn't know the sets, and he doesn't know why certain things have never been graded, and he talks about how this only has pop 3, it should be worth $15,000, when really, like, it only has a pop 3 because we each have, like, 10 of those in our binders, but no one ever graded them. So he didn't have the insight and the knowledge, but he's gotten a lot better in terms of his knowledge, like anyone would, right? He was brand new to the hobby. And you learn over time. And, but I think presenting himself as a expert or some sort of economist on cards was misleading, and I think his early viewers got really lucky, and they still lost a ton of money, a lot of them, because they were opening packs, and opening packs is a great way to lose a ton of money, even with the market going up, particularly when you were paying the prices that he was charging for things. And I think that a lot of people too are not selling their cards, and he would say cards were worth $500, $600 when they never sold for that, like all the time. There are things like that. So the reason I bring that up is because I've never seen Royalty Gaming do that. I do not get any money from Royalty Gaming. I have no affiliation. We talked a couple of times. I've seen his channel a couple of times. PokeGal's involved, who has become, a Pokemon friend of mine and someone who I think really, really genuinely cares about the community. She's involved with that. She doesn't get any money from it. She just does it because she wants people who really want to open packs online to not get scammed. And so that's, but at the end of the day, it's totally, and I will say this, Royalty Gaming, like, I won't, like, buying packs from you, it's gambling, and you're likely not going to make money, and I think that people should be doing it for fun and enjoyment, and not as an investment, and only if they have the money to do it, and I imagine you would agree with that, and we'll get more into that when we do our interview and stuff, Honestly, he did get very lucky. Anything you would have guessed would have gone up, would just because of the market. Yeah, exactly, Royalty. So, and the fact that people don't realize that is, unfortunate. And I will say about the Cardconomist though, I find him funny and interesting and enjoy watching him. So there's a personality element too, and he works extremely hard, and there's something soothing about his voice. And he does these like late night streams, and I think people who are feeling anxious or uncomfortable, it's like a good way to go to bed and to go to sleep with. And I have no problem with any of that. So, and as I've said on this channel before, I hope the Cardconomist does well and his channel succeeds. I just hope that he continues to learn, give people good advice, and brings his prices down to more real amounts. And I hope that I think that through competition with Royalty Gaming and other places, it'll force him to, these people to. So Gary writes, says, personally, I'm completely over most channels. They get way too repetitive and hyped. The real talk here is completely refreshing. Pretty much only watch this in PTCG radio. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I even feel like it's a challenge not to repeat myself here, It's part of why I don't really make that many videos, again, and just do the live, because just having a channel on Pokemon can become just repetitive in general, and I don't want to do that. But part of what's interesting about YouTube is that there are new people in each stream, and so people will ask the same questions that maybe someone asked from the last stream, and they want to really hear the answer, and it's not necessarily repetitive. So there's this hard thing on YouTube where for some people it's repetitive who watch like every video, but then there are certain people who only tune in once in a while, and it's not repetitive, and it's really important. So there's a balance when you're making these YouTube videos of trying to appeal to like as many people as possible. But I'm right there with you, Gary, right? And it's something I think about a lot. I try to only make a video when I feel like other people aren't saying something already. And I intentionally go out of my way not to make videos that will do well in terms of getting views, but that I already saw like 4 or 5 people make. Because it's just like, ugh, who wants to see another one of those? Sean Price says he's a pretty funny guy, controversial but educated. Who are you talking about, Sean? I'm just curious. What's going on with Magic nowadays, Chris says. I'm not really too up on Magic at the moment. Jonathan B says the videos on this channel have helped me sleep a couple of times live. Yeah, my videos can be definitely long, and definitely I get that. And I sometimes when I have trouble sleeping, I listen to like Pokemon videos or videos to fall asleep. Also, I'm with you. My girlfriend hates it though. She wants no electronics at all around that. So. Yeah, he's a funny man. I watch him, but I don't buy packs from channels. Yeah, I think you're talking about Cardconomist Highly Best. Yeah, I generally enjoy his channel and want it to succeed, but I have to call a spade sometimes, and I try and be like gentle and fair. But yes, I mean, I did start my channel in part because like of some of that stuff that I was seeing, and he did do some of that stuff. Thrift asks, so I think we're going to go to 5:30. Okay, guys, just to let you guys know. So that's 13 minutes from now. And then I do have to take a break. I actually really like doing it this way. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. I think it's fun to kind of like answer questions and then come back and re-engage. So you guys can let me know after the video if you enjoyed that too. What else we got here? Josh Birch says, how do you like error cards? Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, I'm not a big fan of error cards. Never responded to them. But some are better than others, is what I would say. And the ones that are better to me are the ones that look better or a bit more interesting. But yeah, just not a fan. But there are plenty of people who are, so. Electronic asks, anybody have a no-number Gengar from TopSoon? I might have one. I think I might have an ungraded one somewhere. My high-graded TopSoon no numbers. I have a Venusaur. I think I have a Snorlax. I have a Kadabra. I think I have a Growlithe and an Arcanine. I think are in 10s or not. I think the Venusaur might be a 9. Chris S says, "Can you stay for 2 more hours?" I'm sorry, I cannot. I'm glad that you like it though, and I imagine you just got here too. But I'll be on again next Sunday, and I'm gonna try to do them each Sunday. Let's see what else people are saying here. Jonathan B was saying, "Yeah, this was a good change of pace." Yeah, I agree. I think it's fun to do it this way. DB Card says, "How do you feel about the Versus Series cards? The Kasubi arts are amazing, and the Lance's Charge, it seems criminally underrated." Yeah, so interestingly, I normally don't do buyouts, but I considered trying to do semi-buyouts on that Lance's Charizard, because I think that it's a card that is criminally underrated by the art, and the only thing that was holding it up is that it's a common card from that set, and that you do get them in each pack. The packs that you open from this sets, if you don't know, are actually really huge. They're not the normal packs. They have lots of cards in them. I think 30. Someone can correct me on that if it's wrong. Again, I'm a little out of the... I'm not as like pro, like I've been taking a little bit of break from Pokemon, but my recollection offhand is that it's like 30 cards in each of those packs. So you would get, Charizards, but the art is amazing, and like there was a time when they were going for about $90 each, $80 to $90 each, and there were about like 9 of them sitting on eBay, and I was pretty close to just like buying them all because I was like almost sure these cards would eventually triple, and probably could triple really quick, particularly after a buyout. And there weren't like that many in the pop report, but I didn't. I think I own 2 of them, maybe 2 10s. They're really cool cards, but again, they are a common card from the set, and there are quite a few of them. Versus Series, I would put it with a lot of those Japanese cards we've been talking about. Really good, really great, unique art. I have tried to collect the entire set in PSA 10. Every card in PSA 10 I've been working on for years. To give you an example, as a collector, because I love them, but also I think that they were underrated. All right, as she says, do you see the upcoming flood of PSA WotC pop boosting 9s and 10s? I think new returning Pokefans think they have 8 to 10s, when likely have 7s and below, could lower 8s and below, boost to raw 9s to 10s. So I think that there's going to be, I think when we're talking about Unlimited, there's going to be lots and lots of 7s and 8s, in my opinion. I think when we talk about first editions, there's not going to be as much, but there is going to be some, and there are packs being opened, and there are a lot of streamers right now selling packs and opening packs, and these cards will probably get graded, and a lot of them, they're all pack fresh, and a number of them will be grading 9s and 10s. A lot of these pops are pretty low, so, getting 5 or 6, 7, 8 more cards, might be decently significant. Again, it depends on the amount of interest in these cards over time. I think that the things to really look out for are the commons and uncommons and the unlimited holos. Those are the things that I think could really extremely blow up, and the market could get flooded. And then things like Hidden Fates will get flooded. Evolutions is going to be a disaster in terms of the flood of cards, particularly your Charizard, but all the holos, things like that, if they really stay at $200 a piece, not the Charizard, but the other holos stay at like $100, $200 a piece. And Royalty Gaming can talk too, because he opens these packs and is sending things in. But I talked to like James from Z&G Emporium. I talked to Created Gem in general. I've heard heard what they tend to grade, how many modern cards they see. I heard from Charlie, who her locker over at Ludkins, who said he had 20,000 Hidden Fates cards. So there are so many of these cards that are going to be graded of the modern stuff. When we're talking about like PSA 9 and 10 English first edition WotC holos, particularly from like Neo, not a lot. It's not going to be that significant, and there's already such low pop on those that I don't think it's gonna significantly affect the prices. But I would look out for those comments, particularly like cards like Jungle Pikachu, Eevee, like what are the other ones that really went up? Like Jigglypuff really went up. Cubone also went up a decent amount. Like those types of cards, those could get really hit. Yeah, Sean Price is saying I foresee lots of 7/8s from binders. He was just about to type it as I was saying it. Yeah. So I think that that's right, particularly because most people have unlimited base, and also the unlimited jungle and fossil cards, which I don't know how much they're selling at 7s and 8s. I assume that they're selling right now unlimited jungle 7s and 8 hollows. Wow, I mean, I have so many. Like if those end up going for over $100 each, I could send in hundreds just myself, and there's so many people who can send in hundreds, so and thousands. Some people probably. So just be careful. And I'm telling you guys, like, we're talking 9 months behind, 8, 9 months behind on bulk services right now at PSA, which is where most of this modern stuff is going. DB Cards says, I guess for those cards, I would just, so a little conversation. Royalty Gaming saying, compared to the subs I send, people like Graded Chub send thousands more. Yeah. These pops will be out of control for sure once PSA gets caught up. Royalty Game Pokemon says, I guess for those cards, I would just need to send it to SM Pratt for him to display to his audience before auctioning them. Yes. Although, interestingly, and part of my shill bidding video, Scott Pratt's, like a lot of them didn't sell. A lot of them were shill bid this round. And TCA Gaming, Rusty had a number shill bid and didn't sell, and they're going to have to relist them. So, but yeah, I mean, some ridiculous prices. And I've talked about the Master Scroll and how ridiculously overpriced that card is. It's a hilariously overpriced card. Royalty Gaming Pokemon cards. Yeah, SMP has already shown off versus series before. It's just your... Let's see. In the Moment says, I've given up on grading. It's just not worth the wait, to be honest, as by the time you get them back, people have moved on to future sets different with trophy or promos. Yeah, I think for me, In the Moment, I have a similar mentality of I'm being very cautious with my grading, and I'm really only grading things that I feel very confident that they're going to retain their value over time, or that I really, really want graded for my collection specifically. I think it's a good time to be cautious about grading. To see where a lot of this population settles, unless you're doing express grading and you're really trying to get your cards out quickly. But again, express grading would only be to pay the upcharge on that would really only be worth it if you felt like you were gonna make a really decent quick margin on your investment. Brandon S. Randy says his family Kangaskhan. The Kangaskhan trophy, I know, is being shill bid from what I heard. Yeah, it's hard to know what's going on. Part of my video on shill bidding is like clearly happening. Hard to know why. Hard to know who's doing it. Hard to know exactly what's going on. Jonathan B says, what's the best way to sell high ticket items? Because eBay takes a big cut. Best way to sell high ticket items, John, is through Instagram. Generally speaking, I think. To people, between people who know each other and have dealt with each other and have a reputation. And so that's a very difficult thing to get, right, is to get a reputation and to really meet the right people. So I think that it's about making relationships, that the best thing you can do in this hobby, if you really want the high-end trophy cards or you want to sell high-end cards, is you build trustworthy relationships where you can avoid the fees on eBay, for example, but also avoid the shill bidding and also avoid the scams, right? The people who decide not to pay or claim that they never got it, like these sorts of scary things that people experience. And so that is what I have tried to do. One of the good things about starting this channel is I knew a number of people before this channel, but I've met more people and widened my network through this channel. And I suggest other people do that. And I'm certainly happy to help. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. I try to answer most people's questions and concerns. Sometimes they pile up and I cannot get to all of them, but I'm happy to help. But I think starting an Instagram page is good. Posting photos of your cards there, building a bit of a following, the more you have out there, the more trustworthy you're going to be, because it's like, well, this person clearly owns a lot of these cards, seems to have a relationship with people, seems to have some reputation, and so they're probably not just going to burn it all down for a quick scam or these sorts of things. So we're at 5:28 here, so just a couple more minutes, guys. Anyone have any last questions? Looks like Highly Blessed says, do you think there will ever be a better place to buy and sell other than eBay in the other ways we have now? So, I don't know. I mean, a couple of like the Japanese market, like buying through like, Yahoo, the Japanese market, buying through either like Zen Market or like Bai Japan, these types of middlemen services that allow Americans to access, that's often the best way or one of the better ways to get these high-end trophy cards that come up. Pocono, who I talked about earlier in this chat, is one of those high-end trophy dudes who seems to have a lot of these extra copies, and that's where he sells. Generally, buying on eBay is and buying from anyone in the Western market is going to be a lot more expensive than buying directly from Japanese people. But the issue with the Japanese people is like, you take a risk going through this middleman service. Like, the seller probably won't speak English or may not speak English, and there can be issues, and it can be really scary paying a lot of money. In terms of like other options, you have like and Royalty Gaming said here, like TCG Player, when you're buying singles, like modern singles, for example, or modern or singles in general can be good. But again, it's like, the more you can develop relationships with people, you can sell through Facebook groups to people, you can sell over Instagram, you can, just using PayPal or even if you really trust them, meeting up in person or whatever. The more money you're going to save, and even more importantly than probably saving the fees, to me, is the trust that I'm actually getting like an authentic item and the item that I actually want, and that I'm not going to get scammed. And that's so important to me. All right, so we are at 5:30, guys. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. It was great seeing y'all. And I will be back next Sunday probably to do another live stream. Hopefully Rafi and I are going to get together this week. We're going to try and make a plan to meet each week. I'm sure you guys miss Rafi. I certainly miss him, and he always has such great insights. And so Rafi will be back, and we can we'll be getting his opinion on things, which is always great. The other thing I want to say, I'm not sure what our subscriber level is now. I think we were getting close to 3,000. I just want to thank everyone so much for subscribing and for engaging. It's definitely appreciated, and it really is a great milestone that we are about to reach 3,000 or closing in on 3,000. And as I said earlier in the stream, it's a really nice number to be at, and I think we have a really nice community. It's really nice amount talking to about like 140 to 200 people each week, because we can have these types of conversations. It's not overwhelming, and there are a lot of like smart people here who have a lot of great insight. Royalty Gaming just said I hit 3K. That's awesome. Thank you guys. So I just want to thank you all so much for coming here. I really have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm glad that you guys get some value from it, and I get value from it too, hearing your guys' opinions each week. So it's really great. Girls Like My Hair asked for what is my Instagram. So my Instagram is Pokenomics with an underscore at the end. Pokenomics with an underscore at the end, and that's where I really take most of my messages. I don't post pictures on there anymore of my collection, haven't in a long time, but there are some pictures of my collection there. But I mainly use it to connect with other people and buy and sell, and also arrange like interviews and things like that through that. So, all right. So I will see you all next week, and